She found an old wedding ring in a drawer and followed the story behind it. The ring wasn't supposed to be there. It was tucked behind a stack of old stationery in the back of the drawer in her mother's sewing room. Rachel had been sorting through supplies, placing spools of thread in a box labeled Keep, when she reached for the last envelope and saw something glint. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe if you love meaningful stories, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I really enjoy seeing where these stories travel. She pulled it out slowly, a small velvet pouch, worn thin at the corners. Inside, a gold band. Simple, no engraving, but it was heavy in her hand, like it had history. Rachel turned toward her mother, who sat in a chair by the window, sorting buttons by color. "Mom," she said, holding it out. "Whose ring is this?" Her mother didn't look right away, just stared at the fabric in her lap. Then, without reaching for it, she said, "That was a long time ago." Rachel waited for more, but nothing came. "Is it Dad's?" she asked. Her mother shook her head. "No, it isn't." Rachel looked down at the ring again. It wasn't flashy, no diamonds, but it had been worn. She could tell by the soft edges, the way the inside of the band was slightly dulled. Someone had put it on and taken it off hundreds of times, maybe more. "Do you want me to put it back?" Rachel asked. Her mother hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, please." Rachel slid the ring back into the pouch and placed it where she'd found it. They didn't talk about it for the rest of the afternoon. Later that night, after her mother had gone to bed, Rachel sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and tried to push the thought away. But it kept coming back. It wasn't just the ring. It was her mother's face when she saw it. The pause, the change in her voice. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness either. Just something else, like memory. Rachel didn't sleep well. Her mind kept circling back to the drawer. The ring. The unfinished answer. The next morning, as they boxed up old cookbooks in the pantry, Rachel tried again. "Mom," she said gently, "who did the ring belong to?" Her mother didn't answer right away. She wiped dust from a glass jar and set it aside. Then she said, "His name was James." Rachel looked at her. "James?" Her mother nodded. "We were close. A long time ago." Rachel waited, but her mother didn't say more. "What happened?" she asked. Her mother gave a small shrug. "It didn't work out." That was all. Rachel didn't push, but something shifted in her chest. Like a window had cracked open just enough to let in air that had been locked away for decades. She spent the rest of the day going through boxes in the attic, not because she was snooping, but because she felt like there was more to know. Something unfinished. Most of the boxes held what you'd expect. Photo albums, school papers, old clothes that smelled faintly of cedar. But toward the back of the attic, under a stack of yellowed Christmas decorations, she found a smaller box. Inside were letters. Dozens of them, all tied with a single ribbon. The handwriting was neat, slanted, clearly from the same person. She flipped through a few. Most weren't dated, but one envelope had a postmark. Minnesota, 1965. Rachel stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside was a short note. "If you ever change your mind, I'll be in Minnesota." No name, just that. Rachel set the letter down and looked out the small attic window. The sun was starting to fade. She didn't know who James really was, but she was going to find out. Rachel waited until the next morning to bring it up again. She made coffee like she always did when she visited. 2 mugs, one with cream and sugar, the way her mother liked it. The sun had just started to rise. the kitchen still quiet except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. Her mother was sitting at the table, looking out the window. She hadn't said much since yesterday, still hadn't mentioned the ring again. Rachel set the mug down in front of her and sat across from her. "I found a letter," she said quietly. Her mother didn't move. "In the attic. Postmarked 1965. It was from him, wasn't it?" Her mother looked down at her coffee, then nodded. "Yes," she said. "It was from James." Rachel waited. Let the silence settle. "I don't want to pry," she said, "but I keep thinking about that ring, about the way you looked when you saw it." Her mother held the cup in both hands. "It's been a long time." "Were you engaged?" Rachel asked. There was a pause. Then her mother gave a small nod. For a little while. Rachel sat back, trying to put the pieces together. "Before Dad?" "Yes," her mother said. "Before your father." Rachel hadn't known that. She'd never heard the name James, never seen a picture, never imagined her mother with anyone else. What happened? Her mother stared at the window. Outside, a bird landed on the feeder, picked at the seeds, then flew away. "My family didn't approve," she said. "They thought he wasn't the right kind of person. Not enough money, not enough stability. I was young. I listened." "Did you love him?" Rachel asked. Her mother didn't answer at first, just took a sip of coffee and placed the cup back down. "Yes," she said. "I did." The words felt heavy, like they had been waiting to come out for a long time. "He gave me that ring when we decided to get married. It wasn't expensive. He said he'd saved for months to buy it." "Did you tell him why you ended it?" Her mother shook her head. "I didn't know how. I just stopped answering his letters. I didn't go to meet him when I said I would." Rachel felt a lump form in her throat. "That letter," she said, "the one I found, it said he was in Minnesota." Her mother nodded. "He moved there after I stopped writing. Said he was going to start over. He told me if I ever changed my mind, I'd know where to find him." "Did you ever think about going?" Her mother looked at her. "All the time." Rachel looked down at her hands. The room felt smaller somehow. "Why didn't you?" "I got married, had you. Life moved forward. But the ring, I couldn't throw it away. I couldn't give it back. I put it in that drawer and tried not to think about it." Rachel sat with that for a moment. "I want to find out what happened to him," she said finally. Her mother didn't respond. "Not because I think you made a mistake," Rachel added quickly, "but because it feels unfinished. And I think he mattered to you more than you let yourself say." Her mother looked at her again. There was something in her eyes that wasn't sadness exactly, more like a quiet acceptance. "If you want to," she said softly, "you can." Rachel reached across the table and took her hand. "I think I need to." The attic was warmer than usual that afternoon. Rachel had pushed a few boxes aside, clearing space near the back where the old Christmas decorations had been. She sat cross-legged on the floor with the small box of letters in front of her. The ribbon was still wrapped tight around them, like it hadn't been touched in decades. She untied it slowly. The letters weren't long. Most were no more than a few lines. Some were dated. Some weren't. A few were just folded notes, written in the same clean, careful handwriting. Rachel started reading them in order. The first one was simple. "I made it home. Thought about you the whole drive. I know you said we should wait, but I keep thinking about that place by the lake. I'd go back tomorrow if you said the word." His name wasn't signed, but Rachel didn't need it. She already knew. She read another. "I talked to your father again. He didn't say much. I think he's made up his mind about me. but I haven't changed mine about you. Then another. If you're having second thoughts, I'll understand. But if not, meet me Sunday. I'll be at the bench near the dock. You know the one. Rachel looked at the postmark. June 1964. There were more like that. Some hopeful, some quieter. The last one in the stack stood out. If you ever change your mind, I'll be in Minnesota. There was no return address on that one. Just the envelope, worn at the edges, with a faded postmark and a town name Rachel didn't recognize. She wrote it down, then looked it up on her phone. A small town near the northern edge of the state, close to Lake Superior. Population just over 2,000. She stared at the screen for a while. Downstairs, her mother was napping. The house was quiet. Rachel gathered the letters back into the box, replaced the ribbon, and carefully set it aside. Then she pulled out another box from the attic corner. This one was filled with photo albums, thick with plastic-covered pages and black and white prints. She flipped through them slowly. Most of the pictures were familiar. Family holidays, birthdays, school photos. But near the back of one album, tucked into a sleeve without a label, she found it. A photograph of her mother, younger than Rachel had ever seen her, standing by a lake. Next to her was a man Rachel didn't recognize. He was tall, dark hair, one hand in his coat pocket, the other resting gently on her mother's shoulder. They were smiling, both of them, not posing, just caught in a moment. On the back of the photo, someone had written in pen, J&M, Lake Superior, Summer 64. Rachel held the photo in her lap. It wasn't the same lake her parents used to visit. This was somewhere else. Somewhere quiet. Maybe the same lake from the letters. She placed the photo next to the letter with the Minnesota address. She didn't have much. Just a name, a picture, a place. But it was enough to start. Later that night, she sat with her mother on the porch. The sun was low, the sky soft. Rachel showed her the photo. Her mother looked at it for a long time. "I almost married him," she said finally. Rachel didn't ask anything else, just sat beside her. "I wonder if he stayed," her mother added. "In Minnesota, I used to wonder about that." Rachel nodded. "I'm going to find out." Rachel didn't leave right away. She stayed 2 more days at her mother's house, going over the details, writing everything down. The town on the envelope was called Silver Bay, small, quiet, right along Lake Superior. She mapped it out. A 14-hour drive from her place if she didn't stop. Closer to 16 if she took her time. Her mother didn't say much after that night on the porch, but something was different in the way she moved. Slower, more thoughtful, like just the mention of James had unlocked a door she hadn't opened in years. On the morning Rachel packed her car, her mother stood in the driveway. "You don't have to do this," she said. "I know," Rachel said, "but I want to." Her mother nodded once, then turned and went back inside. Rachel pulled out of the driveway with a small suitcase, a folder with the letters and the photo, and no real plan. Just a direction. She drove most of the day, stopping only for gas and a sandwich outside Madison. She didn't think much during the drive, just watched the road stretch ahead, let the hum of the tires fill the quiet. That night she stayed in a small motel outside Duluth. Clean room, thin walls. She sat on the bed and looked at the photo again. Her mother looked so different in it. Not younger, lighter, like the world hadn't worn down the edges yet. Rachel tried to picture James now. If he were still alive, he'd be in his 80s, maybe older. She wondered if he still lived near that lake, if he ever got married, if he kept any of her mother's letters the way her mother had kept his. The next morning she finished the drive to Silver Bay. It was smaller than she expected. A handful of streets, a few diners, a small post office with one clerk working the window. She parked outside and stepped in. The man behind the counter looked up and smiled. "Can I help you?" Rachel felt strange even asking. "I'm looking for someone," she said. "James. I don't know his last name, but I think he lived here in the 1960s. He might have worked by the lake." The clerk didn't blink. He nodded like this wasn't the first time someone had come looking for a piece of the past. "There was a James who worked down at the docks," he said. "Back when they still ran the mill. Lived up on Maple Street, I think." Rachel's pulse picked up. "Do you know if he's still here?" The man shook his head. "I think he moved a while back. Maybe 10 years ago. But there's a woman who might know more. Runs the diner across the street. Been here forever." Rachel thanked him and crossed the street. The diner had a red door and a sign that simply said "Lose." Inside, the smell of bacon and coffee hit her immediately. It was half full. Locals, mostly. She approached the counter. "Excuse me," she said. "I'm looking for someone who used to live here. James. Worked near the lake. Maybe lived on Maple Street." The woman behind the counter looked up. Mid-60s. Sharp eyes. "You related?" "Not exactly," Rachel said. "But I think he was important to my mom. I'm just trying to find out what happened to him." The woman nodded slowly. "I knew James," she said. "He was quiet, kind, kept to himself mostly, liked the lake, fished a lot." Rachel felt her chest tighten. "Do you know where he went?" The woman wiped her hands on a towel. "He moved out to a small place near Grand Marais, lived there with his daughter. I think she's still around." Rachel pulled out the photo and slid it across the counter. The woman looked at it for a long moment. "That's him," she said softly. "That's James." Rachel picked up the photo. She had a new direction now. Another piece of the story. And she wasn't turning back. The drive to Grand Marais was slow. The road wound along the edge of Lake Superior, the water never far from view. Pines lined both sides, tall and steady. Rachel rolled the window down just enough to smell the lake air. It was cool and clean, the kind of air that felt like it hadn't changed in 50 years. She pulled into town in the early afternoon. A quiet place, a few shops, a gas station. The lake stretched out just beyond the hill, calm and wide. She stopped at a small grocery store near the edge of town. Inside, the woman at the register looked up as Rachel walked in. "Can I help you find something?" Rachel hesitated, then nodded. "I'm looking for someone," she said. "James. I was told he used to live out this way." The woman raised an eyebrow. "James McClellan?" "I think so. He would have been older. Lived with his daughter, maybe?" The woman nodded slowly. "He passed a few years ago," she said, "but his daughter still lives out near the lake, cabin down by the old trailhead." Rachel felt a small ache in her chest. "Do you know if she's home today?" The woman thought for a second. "She usually is. Doesn't go far these days. You'll want to follow the road until it turns to gravel. You'll see the mailbox, white with blue trim." Rachel thanked her and walked back to the car. She followed the directions. The road narrowed, the trees thickened, and after a few minutes, she found the mailbox. The cabin was small, tucked behind a cluster of birch trees, with a clear view of the lake through the branches. She parked, stepped out, and walked slowly up the path. The door opened before she reached it. A woman stood there, mid-50s, short gray hair, calm eyes. She looked at Rachel without surprise, like she'd been expecting someone. "Can I help you?" Rachel nodded. "I hope so. My name is Rachel. I think your father knew my mother a long time ago. Her name was Margaret. I found letters and a photo." The woman didn't move, didn't smile. "I know who your mother is," she said. Rachel's breath caught. "He kept her photo," the woman added. "Right by his bed. Never talked much about her, but I knew. He loved her." Rachel swallowed. "I'm sorry he's gone," she said. The woman stepped aside. "You'd better come in." Inside, the cabin was neat, simple. A small table by the window, a stack of books on a shelf, the kind of place someone chooses for the quiet. The woman motioned to a chair. "I'm Claire," she said. "His daughter." Rachel sat. Claire walked to a small wooden chest, opened it, and pulled out a box. "He kept this," she said. "His whole life." She set it on the table and opened the lid. Inside were letters, yellowed and folded, all addressed to her mother, a few photographs, and at the bottom, a matching gold ring. Rachel stared at it. Claire touched it gently. "He bought 2, she said. "One for him, one for her. He said if she ever came back, they'd be ready." Rachel reached into her bag and pulled out the velvet pouch, opened it. The ring inside was nearly identical. Claire looked at it, then nodded once. "That's hers?" They sat in silence for a while. Nothing more needed to be said. Rachel didn't feel regret in the room, just something quieter, like respect. She stayed for an hour. Claire didn't ask many questions, just gave her the box and said, "She should have this." When Rachel left, the sun was starting to set. She drove back toward town with both rings in her bag and a story ready to be returned. Rachel didn't go straight home. She stopped at a roadside motel a few miles outside Grand Marais, the kind with plastic key tags and thin towels. But it was quiet. That was all she needed. She set the box on the small desk by the window. The rings were side by side now, resting in their separate pouches. The letters stacked neatly underneath them. She didn't open them again. Not yet. She just sat and looked at them. James had saved everything. The photo, the letters, the ring. Even after all that time, after all those years, he had never thrown any of it away. Rachel thought about what Claire had said, that he never talked about her mother, that he kept the photo by his bed, that he waited, in his own way, for a door that never opened again. She tried to imagine what that must have felt like, to hold on to something without knowing if the other person had done the same, to keep loving quietly, without return, without updates. She didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, she got in the car and headed south. The drive felt different, heavier, not in a bad way, just more full, like she wasn't alone. By the time she pulled into her mother's driveway, the sky was already starting to turn orange. Her mother was on the porch, knitting something small and gray. She looked up as Rachel stepped out of the car. "You found him," she said. Not a question. Rachel nodded. "I found his daughter, Claire." Her mother set the needles down on her lap, waited. Rachel went inside and came back with the box. She placed it gently on the table between them. Her mother didn't open it right away. She rested a hand on top and took a long breath. "I thought about writing to him," she said. "More times than I can count. I always pictured him living a big life, moving on, forgetting me." Rachel sat down next to her. "He didn't forget." Her mother nodded slowly. After a long pause, she opened the box. She touched the ring first, then the letters, then the photo. No tears, just quiet. Her eyes stayed on the photo the longest. "I remember this day," she said. "It was cool out, but I wore that dress anyway. He hated taking pictures. Said he looked too serious." Rachel smiled. "He looks happy." He was, her mother said. She picked up the matching ring Rachel had found in the drawer, held it next to the one James had saved. They were meant to be together, she said, more to herself than to Rachel. Rachel didn't say anything. Her mother closed the box and placed it on her lap. Thank you, she said softly, for going. I wanted to, Rachel said. I needed to know who he was, and I think you did too. Her mother nodded again. They sat on the porch for a while. The sun dipped lower. A breeze moved through the trees. Rachel didn't press for more. Her mother didn't offer more. But the silence between them felt different now. It wasn't avoidance. It wasn't distance. It was understanding. That night, Rachel placed the rings together in a small glass case and set it on the shelf in the living room. Not to forget, but to remember. The next few days passed quietly. Rachel stayed at the house, helping her mother finish packing up the rooms they hadn't touched yet. Most of the sewing room had been sorted, the attic almost cleared. But now everything felt different. Slower, more careful. They didn't talk about the rings much after that first night. The glass case sat on the shelf by the window, just above a row of old photo albums. Rachel noticed her mother glancing at it sometimes when she passed through the room, but she never touched it. One morning, Rachel found her sitting at the kitchen table with one of the letters in her hands. It's strange, her mother said, not looking up, reading his words again, hearing his voice in my head after so long. Rachel sat down across from her, waited. Her mother placed the letter gently back in the box. He was a good man, she said. Kind, steady. I think I always knew that, but I let other people tell me it wasn't enough. Rachel listened. She could tell this wasn't easy. I was scared, her mother added. Scared to go against what everyone expected. Scared of disappointing my family. Scared of starting a life that didn't look like the one they had planned for me. She looked up now. I didn't stop loving him. I just stopped believing I deserved to. Rachel didn't know what to say, so she reached across the table and held her mother's hand. That's not your fault, she said quietly. Her mother nodded once, no tears, just understanding. I think, Rachel said slowly, he never stopped hoping you'd come back, even when he moved, even when he got older. He kept that part of you with him. Her mother didn't respond right away. Then she said, I wish I'd written back, even once, just so he'd know I hadn't forgotten. Rachel let go of her hand. You can still say it, she said. Even if he's not here, you can still say it out loud. That afternoon, her mother walked out to the back porch with the letter and sat quietly. She didn't ask Rachel to come with her. She didn't read it out loud. But she sat there for a long time, facing the trees, the late summer air still and soft around her. Rachel watched from the kitchen. She didn't intrude. Some things weren't meant to be shared. Some were just meant to be felt. Later that night, as they were cleaning up after dinner, her mother asked if Rachel had a small picture frame. I want to put his photo out, she said. Rachel nodded. They found an old frame in a hallway drawer, dusted it off, and placed the black and white picture inside. Her mother set it next to the glass case with the rings. Rachel noticed something else the next morning. The sewing room drawer, the one where the ring had been, was empty now, completely. Not just organized, cleared out. Her mother had let it go. Whatever was hidden there had been brought into the open, and it no longer needed to be hidden again. For the first time since the visit started, Rachel saw something different in her mother's posture. Less weight in her shoulders, more ease in her voice. Like something that had been quietly aching in her for decades had finally found a place to rest. Rachel didn't need to ask how she felt. She already knew. The house was nearly empty now. Boxes lined the front hall, each labeled in her mother's careful handwriting. Donate, keep, give to Rachel. The sewing machine had been sold, the attic cleared. Only a few pieces of furniture remained. Enough for comfort. Nothing more. Rachel stood in the living room, holding one last photo album. She flipped through the pages, her mother sitting nearby with a blanket folded across her lap. "Do you want to keep this one?" Rachel asked. Her mother looked over. "Yes, that one stays." Rachel set it aside with the others marked to move. The photo of James and her mother still sat in the frame by the window, the glass case with the rings beside it. The story was no longer hidden. One afternoon, Rachel walked into town to pick up lunch. When she returned, she found her mother in the living room with a visitor, an older woman with white hair and a calm voice. She was holding one of the letters and reading it out loud. Rachel paused in the hallway, unsure if she should interrupt. Her mother waved her in. "This is Martha," she said. "We taught at the same school years ago. I told her about the trip." Rachel nodded politely, then sat down as Martha finished reading the letter. "I never knew about him," she said. "You never said a word." Her mother gave a soft smile. "I didn't say a lot of things back then. Some stories I wasn't ready to tell." Martha set the letter down. "I think it's a beautiful story. Sad, yes, but honest." Rachel watched as her mother picked up the framed photo. She held it gently, like it still carried something real. "I loved him," she said, her voice steady. "I always did. I just didn't have the strength to fight for it when it mattered." Martha reached over and squeezed her hand. Rachel saw how much her mother had changed, not in age, in presence, in peace. The next day, Rachel helped her mother move into her new apartment. It was small but warm. One bedroom, a small kitchen, a window that overlooked a quiet garden. Perfect for the next chapter. They unpacked slowly, room by room. Her mother didn't bring much, just what mattered. By the end of the day, the apartment looked like a home. The framed photo of James sat on a side table near her favorite chair. The case with the rings rested beside it. Not hidden away in a drawer, not locked in a box, out in the open. That evening, they sat on the balcony with 2 cups of tea. Rachel asked, "Do you feel okay? About all of it?" Her mother took a sip, then nodded. "I do," she said. "It's strange how something buried so long can still have life left in it." Rachel looked out at the garden below. "I think you gave that story an ending," she said. Her mother shook her head gently. "Not an ending," she said. "A place to be remembered." They sat in silence for a while, the sun low in the sky. Nothing needed to be fixed. Nothing needed to be undone. Some stories don't get rewritten. They just finally get told. Rachel returned 1 month later. The apartment was quiet but full of light. Her mother had placed a few plants on the windowsill. The kitchen smelled like fresh coffee. The photo and the rings were still on the table beside her favorite chair, just as Rachel had left them. Her mother looked stronger. Not younger, not changed, but more present somehow. Like something heavy had been set down for good. They spent the morning walking through the garden downstairs. Her mother moved slowly, but she moved without help. They talked about ordinary things, grocery lists, the neighbor who played piano too loud, the next doctor's appointment. Normal, everyday stuff. But when they sat back down in the apartment, her mother picked up the photo. "I think I want to write something," she said. Rachel looked at her. "A letter?" Her mother nodded. "Not because I think he'll read it, but because I think I need to say some things." Rachel didn't ask what. She just brought her a notebook and a pen. Her mother wrote for almost an hour. No pauses, no crossed-out lines, just words, steady and certain. When she finished, she folded the paper neatly and placed it in the box with the letters James had saved. She didn't seal it, didn't mark it, just placed it with the others, like it belonged there. That afternoon, Rachel asked if she wanted to visit the lake. Her mother looked out the window. "Not yet," she said, "but one day." Rachel nodded. Before she left the next morning, Rachel moved the glass case with the rings to a shelf in her mother's bedroom, just above the dresser, where it caught the light in the morning. "It should be where you see it," she said. Her mother smiled. "I do see it, even when it's not in front of me." Rachel hugged her, then stepped back. "You kept the promise," she said. Her mother looked at her. "What promise?" "To remember." The drive home felt different than the one that brought her there weeks before. There was no urgency now, no loose ends, just a kind of quiet peace. At a red light halfway home, Rachel looked over at the empty passenger seat and thought about James. Not with sadness, just with understanding. He hadn't been forgotten. He hadn't disappeared. He'd lived in a drawer for years, yes. But now, his story was on a shelf, in the light. Back at home, Rachel unpacked slowly. She took out the extra copies she'd made of the letters, the photo. She placed them in her own box. Not because she needed to hold on, but because she knew one day someone else might ask about them. And when they did, she'd have the answer. Not a mystery, not a secret, just the truth. A ring found in a drawer, and everything it carried with it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy meaningful stories like this, we'd love to have you as a subscriber.